two of every kind, then these guys would have missed the boat. Because these creatures don't come in pairs, just mobs. Some of nature's most spectacular throngs. Some are looking for food. Some will become food. But to survive, they all stick together. When you think of big African spectacles, you think of all these performers. Millions of prey, dodging thousands of predators. But this isn't Africa's only great drama between hunter and hunted. Some predators prefer the seafood buffet. The sardine run. Billions of fish. One of the greatest spectacles under the seas. Between June and July, the sardines swim up the southeastern coast of Africa. Along the way, they'll run a gauntlet of predators who launch a feeding frenzy like none ever seen beneath the waves. They're just about to start their voyage and face their first predator. The black-footed penguin, also called the African penguin, because it's the only penguin found on the continent. It's a little predator, barely half a meter tall and less than 5 kilograms. Like the lion or cheetah, it's a mainstay of the African landscape, just less known because it's less seen. Most live offshore, on desolate islands like this one. Here, they're safe from land-based predators of their own. The sardines are in better shape than the penguins. Loss of habitat and loss of prey have ravaged this species. In the last century, their numbers plummeted by 90%. Nature designed the defenseless bird for protection, a black backside to obscure it from predators from above, and a white underside to throw off predators from below. Each bird also has a pattern of black spots on the chest, as unique as a fingerprint. And to safeguard it from the African sun, a special bare patch near the eyes. Thought to help it stay cool, the skin around this patch changes to a bright pink in hot conditions. African penguins eat 24 kinds of fish, but their favorites are anchovies and sardines. The sardines spawn along this coast, starting at the Agulhas Bank on the Eastern Cape, and continuing up to KwaZulu-Natal. And as they begin their journey north, they pass through penguin colonies. To hunt in these chilly waters, they're insulated by dense feathers and thick fat. They also secrete an oil to waterproof their feathers by preening. With short legs and webbed feet, they won't win any speed contests on land. But whilst in the water, they can race along at 24 kilometers an hour and dive to depths in excess of 150 meters. The sardines themselves have begun to move up the coast. The penguins will prey on the shoal up to 40 kilometers offshore. Then they have to abandon their feast and leave the sardines to bigger predators. During this run, the sardines travel up to 40 kilometers a day. Not bad for a fish no more than 30 centimeters long. It's a brisk pace for a mysterious purpose. Some scientists thought they might be following their favorite food, plankton, but it turns out that they may also be following the current. On the coast of Southeast Africa, the chilly waters of the Atlantic Ocean collide with the warm waters of the Indian Ocean, carried along the Agulhas Current, one of Earth's strongest currents. For much of the year, the Agulhas Current keeps the water temperature above 19 degrees Celsius, too warm for sardines. But in the southern hemisphere, June brings winter and cooler waters. Up and down South Africa's coast, everyone waits for the sardines. Everyone. Predators will converge to feast on the sardine banquet. The sardines form shoals so dense you can see them just beneath the surface. A single shoal may extend 7 kilometers long, 1.5 kilometers wide, and 30 meters deep, and contain hundreds of millions of fish. Only a fraction of South Africa's sardines make this journey. Yet this tiny minority stages one of the greatest underwater extravaganzas on Earth. Local officials track the shoals, but it's not the sardines they're concerned about. Shark nets surround the beaches to protect swimmers. When the sardines are spotted in shallow water, the nets will be lifted to avoid snaring the sharks and dolphins that feed on the shoal. When the feeding frenzy starts, scientists will get in a frenzy too. Nowhere on Earth will they witness this kind of predatory behavior so near the shore. Along the coast, others are also watching for the sardines. Gannets. These powerful flyers grow up to 1 meter long, with a wingspan nearly 2 meters long. They can cover 450 kilometers a day to find food. But at this time of year, they don't have to go far. The shoals are so abundant and so important, the entire Cape gannet population fluctuates with the sardine run. Endowed with binocular vision, gannets can accurately gauge distance. After spotting the target, a gannet will plunge like a dive bomber from a height of up to 30 meters. It tucks in its wings and goes into a tailspin. A streamlined missile streaking into the water. That kind of impact could kill a human, but air sacs in the gannet's face and chest act like the airbags in a car, softening the blow. And gannets can't accidentally suck in water because they don't have external nostrils. Gannets can dive up to 10 meters deep. Not bad for a bird that's out of its element. They can catch fish on the way down or on the way up, speared on the serrated beak. It happens so fast, the catch is often gulped down before the bird resurfaces. Along the South African coast, fishermen head out to harvest the sardines. A bubbling shoal means others got here first. Bronze whaler sharks, 2.5 meters long, feed here all year round. But when the sardines arrive, they converge by the thousands. Of all sharks, this species preys the most on the sardines. So why aren't they going for the kill? Because another predator is about to do them a favor by handling all the meal preparation work. Common dolphins. Mammals like us, and killing predators like us. When threatened, sardines bunch up in a tight mass, hundreds dense. Safety should lie in numbers. Instead, the sardines have just formed a big target. A bait ball. Dolphins circle the bait ball at high speed, packing the sardines ever tighter. Then, the payoff. The dolphins hunt at will, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Now the sharks feast. Blacktip and copper sharks. Attacks come from all quarters. Submarine and aerial. No wonder locals have dubbed this the greatest shoal on Earth. The gannets will eat so many sardines that they'll be too heavy to take off, becoming just more food for the sharks. A bait ball is not only rarely seen, it may also last only briefly. This one lasts maybe 20 minutes. Then, it's gone. Predators may polish off a bait ball, but they barely dent the shoal itself. The survivors just keep going. At journey's end, they fan out to feed and to spawn. When spring warms the seas, adults and juveniles alike will head south and start the cycle all over again. Sardines might not always show up when expected, but they always show up in swarms. Not so these next creatures. A bird usually seen in small flocks. But if you're lucky, you can find them in a swarm of their own. lives in the treetops, hidden from prying eyes and predators. But if you spot one, you'll think a rainbow has taken flight. The scarlet macaw, the star of the parrot family. Of all the parrots, scarlet macaws are among the biggest, with a wingspan of more than a metre and a tail up to half as long as their body. 2 is the typical number you'll see together, a pair that has mated for life. But amid the vast Amazon, at select sites, macaws flock by the hundreds. This is one of those sites, an exposed riverbank called a clay lick, rich in the sodium the birds are thought to crave. These are all parrots, blue-headed, orange-cheeked, but no macaws. Finding those birds takes a lot of trouble, and man is partly to blame. Deforestation has shrunk the macaw's home. Fewer trees, fewer birds. In Costa Rica alone, barely 1,000 scarlet macaws survive. Most macaw populations are now in danger. By international treaty, the scarlet macaw can't be captured without a special permit. But poachers ignore treaties. The macaw is prized for parroting our speech. A scarlet macaw can fetch more than $1,000 on the black market. Poachers will chop down an entire tree to reach the hatchlings in a macaw nest. Nature also sets up obstacles to finding the flocks. When food is scarce, so are the birds. Suggesting cause and effect. Even when the macaws flock back to the lick, they tend to stay out of the occasional shower. For a would-be bird watcher, only 2 things matter: timing and location. Pucami is a tiny village in the Peruvian jungle. Children here aren't used to cameras, and neither are the macaws. This nearby clay lick is where the birds gather, usually between dawn and noon. To avoid scaring them off, locals build a hide for the cameraman. Then there's nothing else to do but wait. You'll hear macaws before you see them. They're the chatterboxes of the Amazon, and they have a lot to say. They identify flock members, talk to each other, and warn outsiders to keep away. But they're also as cautious as they are loud. Macaws have sharp ears and eyes. Before they venture from the safety of the trees, they scan land and sky for predators, like eagles, monkeys, and snakes. While they wait, couples perform a mutual grooming, a public display of affection, as well as hygiene. Hours pass. Finally, the boldest bird, or the hungriest, makes the first move. The rest still watch for danger. But all's clear. They break off bite-sized morsels of clay, rich in the sodium the birds have come for. The salt, though, is just an appetizer. After about 20 minutes, this pair is ready to find a meal. Scarlet macaws mainly eat fruit and nuts, but they have a big edge over other vegetarians. Using a special structure in the beak, the macaw can grind a hard seed between its tongue and palate to break it down for digesting. So, scarlet macaws can eat nuts that other birds pass up. And unlike many birds, they can penetrate the tough skin of underripe fruit. Scientists have also noticed that scarlet macaws prefer to handle food with their left foot. Back at the lick, the macaws are feeling safe. You can tell by their sheer numbers. The scarlet macaws are joined by cousins of other hues, and by smaller parrots. At any given time, more than a dozen kinds of parrots may feed here. The macaws themselves have other mouths to feed. November to April is breeding season. Scarlet macaws breed only once every year or two, and lay, on average, 3 eggs. If it's lucky, a youngster will live to the ripe age of 50. Parrots themselves have been around so long, scientists can't trace their closest relatives. Yet today, the scarlet macaw flutters on the brink of trouble, its numbers clipped and its terrain ravaged. Its wardrobe, though, may be its salvation. Birdwatchers are flocking to the Amazon and leaving tourist dollars behind, proving that birds in the bush are worth more than one in the hand. More species live in rainforests than anywhere else on Earth. The Amazon, the world's largest rainforest, is bigger than the entire area of India. It might look peaceful, but at this moment, one species is about to launch a rampage that will claim hundreds of thousands of lives. These are the notorious army ants of the Amazon. You can tell the ants haven't passed by this spot yet. There are still signs of life, but not for long. For 3 weeks, this army will ravage the forest. Then, as soon as the queen's pupae have hatched from their cocoons, they'll move on. A constant migration of death. A single raiding party may hold 200,000 ants in a swarm 20 meters wide and 100 meters long, about the same length as a football pitch. There are around 10,000 types of ants, a species so hardy that they can survive everywhere on land except for frozen mountains. Half of all the insects in this rainforest may be ants. The Americas harbor 130 species of the most feared ants, the army ants. They hunt en masse. Deep in the Amazon, a vanguard of army ants is on a mission. A platoon of scouts foraging for the army's next meal. Other insects. When they find food, they send a message back up the line to summon reinforcements. A real search and destroy mission. And they're as voracious as they are unstoppable. This pitiful cricket shows why they're so deadly. First, they seize it by the wings and legs, restraining it by sheer force of numbers. Then they inject venom into the cricket, causing its insides to be dissolved. Now they gnaw at the limbs to dismember the body into manageable loads, ready to be carried back to the nest. Now repeat this scene by 30,000 times, a likely death toll inflicted by the raiding party. Few people will ever witness a raid up close, but here in the shadow of the rainforest, army ants stage one of the biggest mass migrations on the planet. And one of the deadliest. Ants kill more bugs than any other creature, and they have a vast menu to choose from. Brazil alone harbors about 100,000 species of invertebrates. The ants will attack just about anything in their path, whatever its size. A real case of Gulliver versus the Lilliputians. To get a sense of scale, the ratio of an ant to this spider is equivalent to that of a man to an African elephant. Most members of a swarm are known as workers, a fitting name. No human can rival the work ethic of an ant. They live to work, and they'll literally work themselves to death. Guarding the workers is a giant breed of army ant, up to 14 millimeters long, the soldiers. Each is armed with a set of powerful mandibles, a pair of sharp grippers near its mouth for grabbing and cutting. Soldiers guard against other creatures that prey on the smaller workers, especially since workers are completely focused on their job. A soldier ant's bite is so powerful, legends say that the Indians of the rainforest used them to suture a wound by tearing off the body and leaving the mandibles. an army ant raid stirs up a feast for a host of camp followers. Some species of birds owe their very diet to the raids. As ants flush bugs out of hiding and into retreat, the birds swoop in to grab them. Other creatures target bugs stirred up by the ants. The poison dart frog can eat insects that have eaten toxic plants. Perhaps its diet is what makes it one of nature's most poisonous creatures. Ants don't eat the frogs, but they will kill one if it gets in their way. One species of African army ant can kill a horse, and is reputed to have been used to carry out executions. Even a scorpion will make a detour in order to escape the swarm. Ants are vulnerable to being stepped on. So, the safest place to build a nest is underground or up a tree. Unless you're the kind of ant that army ants eat. 7 meters up, the army discovers this defenseless colony. Workers seize the eggs and larvae, which they'll then take back to their own nest in order to feed the rest of their colony. In a display of sheer strength, they carry the load with their mandibles and front legs, and run on their back legs. Even full-grown ants from this nest become prisoners. This adult is twice the size of the worker that carries it, but an ant can carry larvae 3 times its own weight back to the nest. In human terms, it's like a man lifting and walking with 2 fully stocked fridges. If a bridge is needed, that's not a problem. They'll just make one out of their own living bodies. It's a stream of life, carrying a cargo of death. Legs, wings, and every other body part. Yet, you never see a traffic jam. Even more remarkable, these commuters are virtually blind. All they can distinguish is night from day. So, how do they get around so well? By using their other senses, touch and smell. They travel along a chemical highway, formed by pheromones dropped like breadcrumbs. The scent of their pheromone highway is strongest in the center, so that's the lane of choice. But homeward-bound ants laden with food can't change lanes as easily as outbound ants. So, outbound ants swerve to avoid them. 3 lanes of traffic, moving constantly at high speed. The ultimate motorway. Throughout the attack, lines of communication constantly flow to and from the nest. Home at last. Back at headquarters, the Army's base of operations. It's a nest like no other. It's alive, made of their own teeming bodies. held together by interlocking hooks on their legs. Building a permanent nest would be pointless. Because the army eats so much, it constantly needs to move on to new territories. A single nest may hold nearly 750,000 ants. Somewhere in this teeming mass lives the one ant that all the rest live and die for. The queen. She has one purpose: to keep the colony alive by making more ants. In just a few days, one queen can lay up to 300,000 eggs. The army ants of the Amazon are truly Amazonian. A society that revolves around females. Most are workers, those multitasking females who bring home the bacon, nurse the young, and tend the nest. Males have just one job: to mate with the queen, then die. As the colony feast on their daily kill, they discard their table scraps, the insect equivalent of chicken skins and bones. The leftovers will feed the army's camp followers, grasshoppers and cockroaches. With the precision of a scythe, the army will sweep out each morning and clear a swathe of rainforest of bugs. In about 3 weeks, they will have eaten everything within striking distance of their nest. Then the entire army will decamp and move on to new territories. Workers will bring along any food still left in the cupboard. A single worker only lives for a matter of months. But a colony like this may survive for hundreds of years, as long as human dynasties. Ants themselves have inhabited the planet nearly 300 times longer than humans. They outlasted the dinosaurs, and they may outlast us. What other society is so large, unified, and unstoppable? A continent away, another creature swarms in numbers that rival an ant colony, filling up on their own favourite food. Yet this swarm is harmless. In fact, they're preyed on by other residents of this paradise. But their worst enemy is man. Without touching a single bird, we could bring down the curtain on one of the greatest avian shows on Earth. Anyone who comes to witness one of the world's biggest bird shows gets more than they bargained for. The main event unfolds on this African lake. But all around lives a stunning supporting cast that deserves its own spotlight. The stage for this spectacle is Lake Nakuru National Park in central Kenya. The lake sits amid the Great Rift Valley, a 6,000-kilometre scar that runs through East Africa. 400 species of migratory birds thrive here. But these are the ones everyone comes to see. 1 million lesser flamingos. One of the biggest bird spectacles in the world. Lesser flamingos are the smallest of the world's 6 flamingo species. But here, less is definitely more. The lake holds one of the world's largest populations of lesser flamingos. In such a throng, youngsters could easily get lost. Flamingos can't smell, so to identify their offspring, the parents rely on a different sense. That means flamingos talk, non-stop. A chick starts squawking before it even hatches, so parents can learn its voice. Flamingos feed in water. They spend so much time here, they've adopted their famous one-legged stance. Scientists have speculated that if they kept both legs in the cool water, they'd lose too much body heat. As they wade, they stamp their feet to stir up their meal. A favorite dish that is created by the unusual geography of the lake itself. Nakuru is a shallow lake with no outlet to the sea. So when water evaporates here, it leaves deposits of minerals. The white streaks on the shoreline are deposits of evaporated salt. High salinity normally means a lifeless lake, but here it's just the opposite. Nakuru produces a blue-green algae that the flamingos thrive on. Unlike other birds, flamingos use their beaks upside down. They use the lower bill and tongue to sluice water through fringes on the upper bill, straining the algae from the lake silt. One flock can filter more than 100 tons of algae in a day. 1 million flamingos produce a lot of waste, but the algae in the lake feed on their droppings, one of the strongest life cycles in nature. It's the reddish pigments in algae that give flamingos their distinctive colour. But it takes up to 2 years of feeding for the chicks to turn pink, if they can survive that long. Predators keep an eye peeled for flamingo chicks. Of all the winged predators here, the biggest is the marabou stork. It can grow to a height of 150 centimeters, weigh almost 9 kilograms, and with a wingspan exceeding 3 meters, it rivals that of the Andean condor. It preys on flamingo chicks and eggs, but mostly the stork scavenges for a free lunch. Any carcass will do, but with 1 million pink birds around, flamingo is the speciality of the day. Injured flamingos can also succumb to land-based predators, like lions, cheetahs, and hyenas. But the only creature that can dangerously dent their numbers is man. About 2 decades ago, a wave of deaths claimed some 40,000 birds. Then, 2 years later, 20,000 more. Over 20 years, the population has plummeted by some 20%. Scientists are stumped. Possible culprits range from heavy metals to pesticides to blood poisoning. Tests have revealed a range of metals including lead, mercury and arsenic at life-threatening levels. And now, the birds' own diet may be killing them. The algae they eat produces a lethal toxin that healthy birds can resist. But heavy metal poisoning may be weakening their immune systems. And as flamingos can live up to 50 years, the older the bird, the more toxins that can build up. Development poses another threat. including plans to build an industrial plant beside another lake that is a key breeding ground for flamingos. But flamingos are already living with another threat. Nakuru National Park is one of the world's great bird sanctuaries, yet the lake is shrinking. In the last 4 decades, it has shrunk from 48 square kilometers to less than 37. Nearly a quarter of its area gone. Unlike many other birds, flamingos are not predictable migrants. When they have a good thing going, they stay around. But if the lake keeps shrinking, then they'll have to find another. 1 million birds taking wing, risking death from winged predators or sheer fatigue. In the seasons ahead, you could still see 1 million here. Or just a few thousand. Or maybe none at all. Imagine a lake drained not only of water, but also of these stunning flamingos. Harmless creatures that splash colours around and brighten the world. Like all of nature's great ensembles, they dazzle us with the sights and sounds of a show-stopping production. And though humans may like to think that they're the stars of the world stage, flamingos are just one of many creatures that remind us we are merely just members of one large cast.
The brand new series of Animal Mega Moves continues this Tuesday evening at 9.